Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings an opportunity to get better. Let's get into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Eisenhower Matrix. The Eisenhower Matrix. And this is a concept that I had heard of before, but I was able to do a rather deep dive into a few months back when I traveled to Hanover, New Hampshire, and went to a course, a week-long course, a leadership and strategy course at Dartmouth College, at the Tuck School of Business. Great experience, and I had so many great takeaways, but working through this Eisenhower Matrix was one of the best, and I wanted to share it with everybody today. So the Eisenhower Matrix, Dwight Eisenhower, as many of our listeners may know, Dwight was the 34th president of the U.S. He was the supreme commander of NATO, and he played a major role in WW2 in winning that war for the Allies. And if you ask Dwight, what was his secret to success? He's got a great quote where he says, "The most urgent decisions are rarely the most important ones." And based off of that phrase, based off of that saying, as well as some other detail he provided, a matrix was created, a decision matrix was created that was later named the Eisenhower Matrix. And it's a time management and productivity tool that helps people prioritize tasks based on their level of urgency and their level of importance. So Dwight had said, I have two kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, the important are never urgent. So work with me here as we're working through this matrix, okay? I'm going to talk you through it, matrix being a box with four quadrants, okay? So in quadrant one, this is going to be the upper left quadrant. So if you're mentally drawing this, think about the upper left quadrant. Quadrant number one is the urgent and the important. So if you look around on the top, it would say urgent, and on the side of that box, it would say important. Quadrant one is urgent and important. Tasks in this quadrant are both urgent and important, and they require immediate attention. These are the tasks that often involve critical issues or emergencies or deadlines, and they have to be dealt with promptly. If they're not, there's likely some negative consequences. So as the individual making the decision, as the leader, this particular quadrant, if something is in fact urgent and important, these are things that you must do. Okay? These are the things you must do. Now, quadrant two, this would be the next quadrant to the right. So if you're looking at the matrix, this is your top right quadrant. Quadrant two are the things that are not urgent, but they're important. So remember, quadrant one was urgent and important. Quadrant two is not urgent, yet important. Tasks in this quadrant are important. They're just not necessarily urgent. These tasks contribute to long-term goals, to planning, to personal growth, to prevention, to strategy. They should be prioritized and they should be given time, sufficient time for thoughtful execution. As the business leader, this quadrant is arguably where you should be spending most of your time, but these are the things that you're scheduling. You're scheduling out. They are important. They're just not urgent, but as a forward-thinking leader in the perfect world, you are spending a substantial amount of your time in this space. Now, quadrant three, this would be the lower left quadrant. Quadrant three are urgent but not important tasks. Urgent but not important. So tasks that land in this quadrant lack true importance. They're urgent, but they lack true importance. So they often include interruptions. They include activities that maybe don't align with the goals. They include maybe some distractions. So things that are urgent but not important. It's important to minimize or delegate these tasks whenever possible. So as a leader, you're either going to minimize, eliminate, or more oftentimes than anything, you're going to delegate these tasks. Again, they're urgent, they're just not important, especially for the leader. Okay, because leaders typically have the most valuable time. And so spending time on things that are not important is not going to work well. It's not desirable. Now, quadrant 4, the final quadrant of this matrix, this would be your lower right, quadrant 4. Picture it in your mind. Quadrant 4, no surprise here, this is the not urgent and the not important. Not urgent, not important. This is the time-wasting activities. These are the trivial matters. These are the distractions, and we could be real quick on this one. We delete these tasks. And we free up time for more valuable activities. So using this matrix involves us walking through our tasks and placing them in the appropriate quadrant based again on their urgency and their importance. So how we visually categorize allows us to allocate our time and efforts more effectively as the leader of the organization. And we should be focusing on the tasks that align with our goals, that align with priorities, and are the best use of our time. Now, I want to go back to that quadrant 2 one more time. Quadrant 2 are those things that are not urgent, but they're important. For those that can proactively work on the activities in this quadrant, it could arguably be the most important place you spend your time, because this approach is what leads to greater long-term success. If you look at businesses and you find leaders constantly doing urgent things that are important or not important, but they're always urgent, when you're focusing solely on urgent things, you do not get an opportunity to look beyond what's right in front of your face. And as a result, you are constantly firefighting, but you are not planning and being strategic. So if we could be spending more time in quadrant 2, that's the dream scenario. And that means you as the leader are likely in your highest and best use space. So the focusing question for you today, as I've walked through these 4 quadrants, and I'm going to provide a link in the show notes below this episode, that outlines this matrix for you. Take a look at the matrix, because I know you're all mentally working through it. I'm guessing it probably looks like I've had drawn out here, but in case it doesn't, I just want you to check. But I want you to pull this matrix out, and the focusing question is, of the tasks I have to do today, which quadrants do they live in, and how should I react based on where these are in fact plotted on this matrix? I would ask a follow-up question: where are you spending the vast majority of your time right now? And of course, how do you feel about that? Now, some of you are saying, gosh, I'm spending a lot of my time on urgent and important because, well, that's the nature of your job and you're constantly firefighting, and I get it. But you probably strive to be spending more time on the less urgent but the very important. And so I would ask, how do you get there? So a lot of focusing questions, right? How do you get there? What's missing? Some really good things to think about. That's all we have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.